over on TV, Mad Men started airing in 2007.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing, we were talking about this on a previous History of Awesome, is that, it might not be previous, but we filmed it previously. We talked about Breaking Bad in a previous episode. And, like, it's crazy to think, like, people don't think about Mad Men as being a 2007 show because TV shows continue airing, right? And it usually takes sometimes 2 or 3 years for them to find an audience, people being like, yo, there's this show, Mad Men, you really got to be watching it. Like, AMC wasn't really a very high-profile station, and Mad Men wasn't a high-profile show for probably 3 seasons. Like, it was very revolutionary for 2007, for sure. Like, television wasn't what it is today when that show started.
Yeah, it gave us John Hamm, I think, pretty much.
Yay.
It gave us Don Draper, who is in the modern pantheon of anti-heroes. That includes Tony Soprano and Walter White. Even though the show set in mostly the 60s, it deals with all sorts of themes that are still relevant today. It deals with sexism and identity, things like that.
Well, I mean, I like I don't know if you wrote that in your notes, but the notes for this episode, you were talking about how Don doesn't have his life together at all. Like, he doesn't understand himself, and yet he understands like humanity and is able to make these incredible, perfect advertisements that like totally speak to exactly what people want to hear, even though he doesn't understand what's going on in his own heart and head. The show, I don't think I've ever seen, it's not my favorite show, but I probably think it's the most like perfect show. Like, just the way that it looks and its 1960s style and the acting and I don't know, it just all comes together so perfectly.
Yeah, it feels very authentic. I've been rewatching it with my boyfriend recently. And also I really love how every season is just concise in this one great arc. And the first one is we're just learning about Don and his identity. And then it builds on that with different things and expands, but it still feels very focused, although we're learning about so much in this world. I think that's something that Mad Men excels at. Instead of just having one plot that goes on forever and we maybe get to the end, it's like, here's a story.
Don Draper is maybe a perfect character. I don't know, he's very, I guess I just said it's a perfect show, but the directors, I don't know if this is deliberate or if it's just something that I picked up on, they're always showing the back of his head. And I feel like they're always doing that because whenever I see that, I'm trying to figure out, like, what's he thinking about? Like, what's Don Draper thinking and what's going through his head? And that show makes me think more than maybe almost any other television show. Like, I watch it and I get entertained in the same way I watch anything and get entertained, but I walk away from an episode of Mad Men in, like, a more, like, reflective mood than I was when I started, for sure. It's great. And it's also a show that, if people are still watching it, I won't spoil it, but it ends on a fairly strong note, I think. Like, it's not a show that kind of peters out.
We like to think of the 60s as being a long time ago, but in the great scheme of things, they're not that far. And then it'll show you there's all these moments where, like, the family goes to a picnic, and when they're done with their picnic, they just pick up their picnic blanket and just shake out all their trash and just walk away and leave it there in the park. And, that was us. Like, not that long ago, we thought that was okay. But, like, we as people had to, like, learn, we're always, like, what I guess my point is, we're always learning, always trying to improve. And, like, we have to sometimes be taught that our behavior is not appropriate. And you still see that happening today, in a lot of our internet culture.
In the first season, there's the kid that hits that other kid's son, just smacks him across the face for running through the house. And it's like totally like that's just what the world was back then.
And now there was a whole I don't know if it was like a mini-series or something or a play about that. Not that scene, but just the slap where there's a kid that gets smacked and it's a big drama. It's like,
ABC or something like that.
Then we see it's just one little scene in Mad Men. It's like,
I read an essay, I don't remember the website sadly, but the smartest thing that I ever saw written about Mad Men was that the show probably appeals more to, like, the people that lived through that are still alive, like that's our parents, but it appeals more to us. The Mad Men is a hit with people in their 20s and 30s because we look at it and it's a lens with which we can view like our parents' lives and like what, like later in that show it does deal with like, race in really interesting ways, and it's like I'm not consciously, it's not like I want to watch Mad Men to see what my mom and dad went through, but that's part of why it appeals to us. Is like that's just something that's kind of out of reach for us. Like we didn't live through it, but the generation before us did, and to sort of get to like open a window or open a door and like peer through it and see what that world was like that they lived through is why that show is a hit for people that are our age.